It's Hollie's Hotspurs back with another one. Chatting all things Tottenham, we're second to none. Special guests every time, if it's win, lose or draw. The passion is high like Harry Kane when he scores. Or when Lloris makes a world-class save. We got Højbjerg running the mid every game. Settle down, stick around, share your thoughts with the panel. And make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Coys.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollie's Hotspurs Live, where, ladies and gents, Tottenham Hotspur against Chelsea is no longer the 3-point lane because we have beaten Chelsea 2-0 at home and it feels bloody wonderful. And with me tonight to dissect everything, I am joined by three fabulous guests. First of all, we're joined by Spurs Views, aka Dara. How are you this evening on this fine Monday?
Yeah, absolutely buzzing, Holly, and thank you so much for having me on. It has been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to talking about this all day.
It should be a good one, like I say, especially beating Chelsea. It's good stuff. But thank you for joining me tonight, Dara. And we are also joined by George. George, how are you? It's a good Monday today, isn't it?
It's a fantastic Monday. You know what? I never thought I'd be this happy after a Chelsea game, but here we are. I can't wait to get to this. Thanks for having me on.
The stars have aligned indeed. But no, thank you, George, for joining me. And we also have Mitch. Mitch, how are you tonight? Are you buzzing as well?
Very well, yeah. You can never be too upset after we've beaten Chelsea. It's not a very rare occurrence, is it? So yeah, all smiles from me yesterday and today so far, which is nice.
It is good. It's definitely a great way to start the week, especially on a Monday. But no, thank you guys for all joining me. And thank you to everybody that's in the chat already. Alexander's already in there with steak. Lovely jubbly. But let's crack on with things, because obviously it was the same starting 11, Dara, as what we had against West Ham. I mean, I like the consistency. What's your kind of thoughts, obviously, when you saw that first starting lineup?
Yeah, no, I was happy. I was happy, to be honest. I thought Richie deserved his chance. I thought he played well last week. I think you can see in him he's kind of itching to get a goal, but his all-around play is quite good. And I think it's taken the pressure off Sonny a little bit. He might be a bit aggrieved that he's been on the bench the last couple of games, but it might set a fire in him again, and it might spur him on that extra 10%. In the games coming up. So I thought that was a good decision. And I also thought Davies is bringing something extra to that left wing back role. I was worried last week when he started there, but he played extremely well. So again, definitely deserved to hold his place. And I think when something is working, keep it going as long as it doesn't. And yeah, I can see that starting 11 starting again next week, to be honest with you. Obviously, I'd say that starting 11 will probably change for Sheffield, but I think keep it going as long as it's working, to be honest.
Definitely. Don't fix something if it isn't broken, isn't it, George? I think that's kind of the vibe we kind of got from it.
Yeah, 100%. I think as well, we've had too many games where it's maybe a bit of chop and change. You're bringing out Longley left centre back, Davies left centre back. Maybe obviously I know Tanganga that's coming here and there, but also swapping the fullbacks, the wing backs a lot. So I don't think we've necessarily found like a really good consistent 11 so far this season, and that's probably why results have been up and down. But it was good to see that, yeah, they found a team that worked brilliantly against West Ham at home, and they just did it again against Chelsea. And it's sort of the games that you need them in as well, because both derbies, both can get heated. Both teams always seem to turn up against us anyway. So playing someone like Richarlison, I think, was definitely the right call. Even though Sonny came on and scored against West Ham, it's like you need a bit more aggression, and you could see that from Richarlison. He was being very physical. He was winning balls back. Despite not scoring, I thought he still had a really good game, and I think he was very much a team player. And yeah, these are definitely the sort of games that you need him in. So it was good to see that Sonny was still benched and hopefully a little bit more rested for the next games that he does start.
Definitely. And I think that's the thing. I mean, we've all talked about consistency, but Mitch, for this game, I think we all wanted a bit of aggression, especially playing Chelsea. And I felt like we did kind of get that from this game.
Yeah, I think Stellini and Conte picked the right players to suit up for a London derby. I think all of us Spurs fans know that it's probably the most aggressive game of the season, even above the games against West Ham and Arsenal. So, when you've got the likes of Richarlison in the squad, who are aggressive players, Romero absolutely lives for those sorts of games yesterday. And then, yesterday was one of the rare occurrences where I was quite glad to see the likes of Ben Davies and Eric Dyer in the starting 11, because they've played in so many of these types of games and they know what it means to the fans, and just how important it was to finally get a victory over them at our new place. So yeah, it was nice, and it's so nice to finally see a bit of consistency with the team. I think we've gone almost the entire season not knowing what our best 11 is, and regardless, we're still missing Lloris and Bentancur, two of our best players, but it finally looks like we've got a good balance to that starting 11. So it'll be really interesting to see what Conte does when he comes back and what sort of side he decides to put out in the next few games.
Definitely make some good points as well. I mean, I don't want to say I've forgotten about Hugo Lloris and Bentancur, but yesterday it kind of felt that midfield was really strong in terms of, obviously we'll get onto the goal with Skippy and that, but it felt like Spurs Views, Dara, that combination is working. Like we say, it's the consistency. They're learning to play with each other. I know lots of people were calling for Sarr maybe to come in, but again, I think that would just rock the boat a bit too much.
Yeah, no, definitely, because like I think we all saw what Skip could do when he came back from his loan from Norwich. He had a serious run on the side. And you really thought that he was going to nail down his place. And of course, he got that horrible injury, which set him back big time. And you could see towards the start of the season, he was in and out of the team and he was struggling a little bit. But you can see even in the last couple of games, like with a bit of consistency in the side and being comfortable with who his midfield partner is, he knows his game. Højbjerg knows his game as well. So yeah, that's making an absolutely massive difference. And I know you do miss Bentancur big time, of course. Like in my opinion, he's our best midfielder. And you bring something totally different to the side that no other midfielder that we have does. But I think we have found a way to kind of accommodate Skip and change our style ever so slightly to allow Spurs to play the way they want to play without making too much changes to the style. So yeah, no, I've been delighted with the way Skip has been playing, and I think he's come in seamlessly. And like, big shout out to Fraser Forster. I thought he was really dominant in the 6-yard box yesterday, bar that slight fumble of the shot, and that was a Sterling, I think. But I mean, even that like is parried straight in front of him, no real danger. And yeah, he's been really commanding. I've been really impressed, especially when Havertz ran through. I really thought I was like, that's a dead cert goal, and he came out, he commanded and pounced on the ball. So I think the two boys that have come in to fill in for those massive roles in the side have been absolutely stellar. And that's testament to them for coming in after being on the bench for so long.
Definitely. You make some valid points, Dara, 100%. Before I move on to my other topic, consistency, I just want to say a big thank you to John for his super chat. Thank you very much, John. Up the John. But George, I come to you because obviously we've talked about consistency in the terms of the starting 11, but the consistency also remained that we did start the game a little bit slow. Although there was aggression there, you could see we were up for it. I felt now and again we just hanged off Chelsea. Do you think that was the game plan from the off, to stay off them, let them have the possession, hit them on the counter?
I think slightly. I think it was more about maybe sussing them out a little bit, because obviously they brought in stupid amount of players that no one really knows how they're going to work together. And I think I remember Skippy and Stillini talking about in their like little interviews afterwards, specifically targeting the fact that Felix was going to sort of play between the midfielders and the forwards. So they clearly had a plan. And I think the first maybe 15-20 minutes was more about sort of just making sure not to concede, suss them out a little bit, and then we can crack on going forward. And it seemed to work pretty well, to be fair. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think us as fans, we just get a bit frustrated when Tottenham start slow, because it's just been the theme of all the season. But I think you're right, George. And like George says, Mitch, maybe that was kind of the plan in terms of let them do their thing, we can suss them out, because we did have a few breaks in that first half. I think one of the combo plays, we saw Decky and Harry Kane absolutely nutmeg to their players. So it's kind of like reassurance that actually we are actually up for it today.
Yeah, we did. Do you know what? For me personally, it was sort of almost like a game of two halves. I feel like they were a bit more on top in the first half. They had a lot of the ball. They were very clearly trying to find that opening goal. And I think in the second half, because we scored so early, literally 30 seconds into the second half, I felt like that just boosted our confidence. And I actually then thought we took control of the game. And it's very, very rare that I'll sit there and think, I feel quite comfortable and confident that we're going to win this game. But I did yesterday, which is a first for many, many years against Chelsea. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure what their issue is, but I do really want to give credit to the boys, because I thought they controlled the game really well. I don't think any player had a bad game. I think they were all put in a really, really good shift, which, I mean, how many times have we said that this season? Probably, again, none. So it's good, and yeah, just hopefully we can maintain it. It's all well and good putting it in, but I saw a comment a second ago that I think you put up, if we lose to Wolves at the weekend, then it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, or whatever it is. So it's nice, but we need to make sure we maintain it and carry on, because having watched the cup final and having watched Newcastle sort of fall away a little bit over the last few weeks, I all of a sudden feel like I will be very, very upset if we don't get ourselves into the top 4, especially with how poor Liverpool and Chelsea look this season as well.
No, yeah, I think you're right in terms of the other teams around us that normally are there have dropped off a cliff. So it would be a shame if we don't obviously get up and get amongst them. But obviously, Mitch has mentioned the goal, George. So let's talk about the goal, George, because I still to this day am watching it over and over again. It was just incredible.
What a way to score your first goal against that team as well. So, no, man. I mean, well, to be fair, I think Kepa could have done a bit better, but we don't usually see, like in previous seasons, our midfielders taking those sort of shots on the edge of the area. I feel like a lot of the times they are just drilled to just play out wide non-stop. And I think, first of all, Skippy did brilliantly to sort of battle with, I think it was João Felix to win the ball off of him when the ball came back out. And then, yeah, just a clean strike outside the boot, heading towards the top corner, man. It was amazing to be there and see, man. It was so good.
I can imagine. I bet the stadium went nuts. I mean, it's not as good when you're watching at home because you want to be amongst it. But I can imagine that it was absolute limbs. But like you've kind of alluded to earlier, Dara, the fact that Skippy, after having that massive injury, has managed to come back and to score a goal like that it's just brilliant for him, isn't it?
Oh, it's super for his confidence. I mean, you could see how much it meant to not only him but to the whole team. You know, they're all crowding around him before, straight afterwards, and everything like that. I mean, it was massive, like, and to score it in that fashion straight after half time, right on the front foot, it was absolutely huge, and it changed the whole dynamic of the game, the atmosphere around the place. It was phenomenal, to be honest. And you know, there was literally no better goal you could have probably scored. Like I'd say, he's been dreaming about that moment for years. So, absolutely enormous.
And it was so great as well, Rich, to see like the pictures of him in his little Spurs kit when he was like, what, about 7 or 8, and then comparing him to now. It's just great, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's sort of lived every Spurs fan's dream, is supporting the club growing up as a kid, and he's had the opportunity for a few years now to play for the first team, and he's had to wait a while. He's had to do his loan spell out on Norwich, but he finally looks like he's sort of coming into his own and showing us what sort of player he can be, and that is someone that is important at the moment. We'd probably label him as an important squad player. I think we'd obviously all have Bentancur back in there if he were fit, but having said that, he's one of my favourite players at the club just because he absolutely loves every single second that he's on the pitch in a Spurs shirt. So yeah, can't fault him for that, and he's only going to get better as well with more games that he plays. And you'd probably think at this point he's got that central midfield spot nailed down next to Højbjerg for the rest of the season, or till whenever Bentancur's back. But yeah, it's all a positive really, and it's nice to see that we've had someone that's been able to come straight in and not necessarily make us look weaker, which is lovely.
Yeah, we've needed that for a long time, I feel, like you say, to have a Spurs boy that can do that. We won't talk so much about Winks because he's hiding underneath the table behind me, but it is true. It's the Skip's come in and he's done the job and he's been rewarded with his goal. But George, obviously, we've spoken about how this game needed a bit of aggression, and we know the main man that has aggression, and that is Romero. But how, shall I say, happy or pleased were you to see that he managed to contain that aggression quite well yesterday?
Do you know what? I genuinely think he's had probably one of his better games of the season, but if not his best game of the season for us this year, because again, like you said, it wasn't like the rash second challenge you had against Haaland, where maybe he just took it a little bit too far. I think every sort of challenge he made was very calculated this time around, but he knew to sort of get it stuck into the player as well a bit afterwards. And it looked like he's taken Emerson under his wing as well, because those two on the right hand side have both been teasing a lot of the players. I think it must have been like Havertz or Felix or someone was on the floor. I remember them both sort of like going over him and giving it large. So I could see it's so nice to have that, because I feel like we haven't had that, especially in a centre back, for quite a long time. And a lot of top teams, I feel like you need that sort of aggressive centre back that is willing to maybe get in people's ears, maybe get on their nerves. Because at the end of the day, that's what stopped Haaland when City came to Spurs. Well, after he put that first challenge in, he was pretty much nowhere to be seen for the rest of the game. Like, he was too afraid. So definitely in these big matches, that is what you want. But throughout the season, you sort of want to make sure it's like to a limit, because otherwise you don't want to see too many red cards like he's had in his career so far. But no, I think honestly just a very, very solid game from him, and yeah, great to see him kick a few into the players.
It was that, and as well, I think the thing that really tickled me, Darryl, we're talking about Romero, was the fact that he's put a challenge in, or the ball's coming across, he absolutely levers it, even if he's just clearing the ball away. But it just made me laugh how wound up it made the Chelsea players.
Oh, 100%. You need fellas like him. back there for you, especially in derbies like that. Get a bit more riled up, up the intensity a little bit. No harm getting under Havertz's skin. Havertz gave him a few digs in the away fixture, if I do remember correctly. So I'd say Romero remembered that. He had that pinpointed from the minute that shoulder went in. He was like, I'm going to get this guy back. So, brilliant to see that kind of stuff. I'm all for it. I'd never like to see Romero lose that kind of aggression. I think he's worth the whatever red card or two he's going to get a season for those kind of moments. He's priceless. He's brilliant. I don't know, did you see as well on his socials, he was like 2 foot in his child?
Oh yeah.
I was like, this guy is genuinely a lunatic. We need guys like him. He's class.
We really did. I think that's the thing. When you've got the likes of Dyer, because Dyer did have a good game yesterday, but I think when you've got Romero next to him, Mitch, it's almost like it brings up everybody else's confidence in that back line.
Yeah. We've seen how we look without Romero in that squad. The Leicester game being the prime example of that, and it's completely different. I just think everybody feels a lot calmer. And when you're calmer, you're more confident in your play. You don't misplace that 5-yard pass. You win your individual battles, your aerial duels. You just step it up a little bit. And I think just with how he's so aggressive, especially in a London derby, it's only going to be a benefit to everyone around him. It's only going to hype everyone up. I mean, you watched the cup final yesterday, the Man United Newcastle game, and you see Casemiro put in a similar sort of challenge to Romero would. And, he's turning around to the crowd, geeing him up. And then you've got all the players coming over to him, celebrating, geeing each other up. It works in a similar effect with Romero. And the good thing about it is 99 times out of 100, he wins his challenge. If he misses his challenge, it looks pretty nasty, and he's more often than not going to pick up a yellow card. But like George was saying, I think yesterday was one of his best games in a Spurs shirt, and he didn't put a foot wrong. He was so calm on the ball. Every single tackle was just fantastic, and he just looked up for it, and he looked like he would have taken anyone on if they'd started, and that's what you want in a London derby as well.
100%. Like I say, we've missed it for a long time, I think, and to have him be so calm. I mean, there was one point where he was very calm and he didn't realise he had the ball and he kind of like tapped it too far, but he still managed to make a clean tackle afterwards. So it kind of highlights how he is. But George, it wouldn't be a London derby if there wasn't some sort of controversy, and that is obviously the red card. Now, what's your kind of initial thoughts of everything that went down?
I was just honestly baffled by the decision, because for me, what irritates me the most was that when it happened, I can understand if he gave the red card straight away and then went to the VAR cameras and changed his mind, that's a little bit different. But it's the fact it took him 5 minutes to come to a decision to actually give him the red. Almost makes you think that he's been told in his ear already that that's a red card offence. I think it was the assistant that was telling him it was the case. So it already took him a while to give him the red in the first place. And then to go to the cameras and spend ages looking at it and then come to the conclusion it wasn't, I thought it was a bit of a joke, to be honest with you. And I think, I feel like a lot of other players have been sent off for less than that. And I understand it sort of grazes his shoulder a little bit first, but at the end of the day, he's raised his hand, like almost open palmed him in the face, which is in the letter of the law, that it's a red card. So I just don't think the referee had the game in control at all. There were so many times where he, made the wrong call on some things, whether it's, throw in or free kick, foul, whatever. It just did not seem in control at all. And I thought it was a really strange decision to overturn it. It just did not seem like an obvious error in the first place of giving him the red card.
It's a strange one, isn't it, Darragh? Because part of me is like, because I think Dawson was talking about how, well, if you look at it from this angle, it looks like he hasn't meant to hit him in the face, this, that, and the other. But ultimately, he has. So, I think it just makes refs look really stupid the way it was overturned.
Oh, yeah, big time. And I completely agree with what George was saying there. It's just, I think fans wouldn't have been overly aggrieved with whether it was a yellow or a red if it hadn't taken such a ridiculous amount of time. I think we're just more, annoyed at the whole process. It looked like he was like, at first I think he'd booked Emerson and he'd booked someone else.
Havertz, I think he booked.
Havertz, yeah, you're right. And then he hadn't booked Ziyech. So we were like, well, something has to happen to Ziyech because this all happened because of him. So he was obviously going over in his head. He was obviously getting some sort of communication or go look at a monitor, do something. Like, it just seemed all over the place. It looked really messy. It was just a big, atrocious, scene, to be honest with you. whether it was or it wasn't, look, it's one of those really. Yeah, look, maybe he meant to shove him. We don't know what's in Ziyech's head, but he does strike him in the face. At the end of the day, he hits him in the face. I wouldn't have had too many grievances if a Spurs player was sent off for that, to be honest, because if you hit someone in the face, you make that stupid decision and, you know, you deserve the consequences. I think it was a Casemiro a couple of weeks ago. He kind of had someone by the throat, and if you looked at it from the other angle, it didn't look like he had him by the throat. And it's just like, if you raise your hand, you're taking that chance and it's your fault. You know, what are you doing raising your hand like that in the first place? It's stupid. So I don't know. I think he could have been sent off, to be honest with you. But look, it didn't really matter at the end of the day. Thankfully, it didn't come back to bite us. But yeah, just another farce, to be honest, isn't it?
I think the other thing that's a bit frustrating for me as well is that when you actually look back at it, the original challenge was a yellow card in itself.
Yeah, it was.
And then the raising of the arms is also then a yellow card. But then VAR can't intervene for yellow cards. So no matter what way you look at it, whether you say it's a straight red or not, either way, he should have been sent off regardless of what's happened. And I feel like that's what's the most ridiculous thing. You've taken 6-7 minutes to come to this conclusion, and then he's just still on the pitch when he shouldn't have been. It just blew my mind, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I still don't get it now, to be honest. I mean, like Kev said, Mitch, surely if the ref didn't see everything that was going on, because I can imagine as a ref, you've got about 600 different things going on at once, especially in a scene like that. Surely he should have just gone to the monitor and seen for himself in the first place.
Yeah, I think in today's game, there's no excuse for the referee missing those sort of things, because you've got the two linesmen, you've got the fourth official, and you've got the people in VAR. So it's not like there's not enough eyes watching the game and are able to see what's going on. Like, somebody would have seen it. And I think one of the linesmen did see, obviously Ziyech raises a hand and strike Emerson, I guess, across his shoulder and his face. But yeah, just to echo what the other guys were saying, really, I think my main issue with it is the fact that he already had the yellow card out after Ziyech made the original foul. And I think it's borderline whether it's a red card or not for the original offence, because I don't think he meant to hit him in the face. I don't know if I want to class it as violent conduct, but he had the yellow card out, was going to caution him for the original foul. Having said that, getting involved with the scrap and even trying to push Emerson, and he did catch him in the face, that 100% at least constitutes another yellow card. So that's where my main issue is with it. But, you get upset about it, and the biggest issue of all is the fact that something like that happens every week with the officiating in the Premier League. And I just I feel like we're all constantly repeating ourselves, and I don't know at what point things are going to change and things are going to get better. I know it's difficult and it's a tough job, and the rules are so sort of specific and written in certain ways that you have to interpret it however. But it was just all a mess, wasn't it? I know why he gave the red card and then immediately went to look at his monitor. It's because I don't think they're keen on advising him to give a red card if he didn't originally. So they prefer him to tell him to overturn it rather than to actually give it. But at the same time, you've also got to remember that you're in a London derby. Like George said, it took 5 minutes. So it completely almost kills the atmosphere, winds people up. And if anything, it's going to make the game a bit more dangerous and a bit more aggressive, because Chelsea players are going to be annoyed that took so long and it was all a big mess. He got sent off and then didn't. And Spurs fans and players are going to be annoyed because they thought he should have been sent off. So yeah, just another mess, a weekly mess in the Premier League at the moment. But maybe one week we'll go without having to talk about them. Who knows?
Hopefully. I literally think it is literally every week there's some sort of controversy that we're having to dissect. But like I said, luckily it didn't really matter, because then, George, we managed to see Harry Kane breaking more records and managing to put the cherry on the cake with his goal in the 82nd minute.
There's not actually much more you can say about him, to be honest with you. He's the greatest striker in the world. Like, I can't. The guy is unbelievable, man. And I just love seeing him every single week, just bagging in goals. And it's almost a shame that Haaland is scoring as many goals as he is, because it's really overshadowing like what an amazing season Kane is having. No matter how inconsistent we may be as a team, and with some of the results, you can almost bank that he's scoring almost every week at this point. So. Yeah, I mean, I was very happy that he managed to get a goal in the end. And I'll tell you what, it was actually, it was sort of a good move in general. The fact that obviously Dyer's won the header. Obviously, he's probably going to try and go for goal, but he didn't. And Kane was just in the perfect place at the right time. And the fact that he actually has to almost stop himself a little bit, put on the brakes to then reach back and get it back in the goal. Yeah, the guy's just world class.
It is. I mean, we talk about the rest and VAR every week, but we literally talk about Kane every week, and I don't mind that so much. But Dara, it was nice because obviously, I don't know if it was Sonny's first touch, but it wasn't far off Sonny's first touch from the corner as well.
Yeah, no, it was massive, and it came at a perfect time in the game when I think everybody's starting to get a bit nervy. You're kind of going, "Oh, this is Chelsea, and there's no they're going to nick a goal at the end," and that I think just kind of eased everybody's tension, to be honest. And yeah, as George said, I actually thought it was a much harder strike than it looked. It wasn't as simple as just tapping it over the line. As George said, he actually had to stop himself and actually throw the leg back to hook it back in. And he makes those kind of finishes look so easy because we're so used to him doing it. But you see those kind of chances missed or fluffed so often. But you know what, Harry, is just not going to happen because he's world class. He's the best to ever do it at Spurs. So, I mean, maybe in the Premier League, who knows?
Hopefully.
But hopefully, yeah, someday. Yeah, no, it was at a huge time in the game, and Sonny's delivery as well, in fairness, was absolutely spot on, right onto Dyer's head, and yeah, no, it was just perfect, really.
It really was, and I think that was the time when they were about to bring on Aubameyang, and I was like, "Oh, Mitch, no, this is written in the stars. Aubameyang's going to come on, he's going to equalise." But it was good that we managed to get that goal.
Do you know what? I felt the exact opposite. I sat there and I sat there and I thought, God, you've spent 600 million in the last year, and your last resort, your last option is to bring on an absolutely washed Aubameyang to try and rescue a goal for you. I thought to myself, how is that possible? I mean, who? I just don't understand it. And I have a few mates who are Chelsea fans, and they think Aubameyang should have been given a chance earlier, or should have maybe even started the game, because a lot of them are a bit frustrated with seeing Havertz up top, especially on his own. They don't necessarily see him as a striker, as more of a 10 player. So yeah, to be fair, when Harry scored that second goal in at the time he did, it maybe just eased that pressure a little bit more. So you got Aubameyang on the pitch. I'm sort of like, I can't see it happening, even though he's been a pain in our butts in the past. So yeah, no, it was all good. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I felt so comfortable against them yesterday, and I'm trying to savor that feeling before it goes away, because you know they'll sort their themselves out sooner rather than later, and they'll be a very decent team again at some point. So yeah, credit to Kane as well, though. I love that man to pieces.
He is incredible. I think the other stat was something like it's the first time since the 1991 season since Gary Lineker scored in both fixtures in the same season. So again, every game he plays, he breaks something. So yeah, I mean, it's credit to Kane. We don't really need to say much more about Kane. We do it every week because the man is a star. But obviously, a few special mentions that I want to talk about. And Dara, I'll come to you for this one, because Emerson Royale, as many people know that have been people of the podcast that watch this week in, week out, they know that Emerson isn't, I'm not his biggest fan, but I have to give it to him. He is absolutely tearing it up at the minute.
He's been absolutely insane. I can't get over it. Every time I watch him the last 4 weeks, I actually can't get over it. I've done nothing but slate him in the last year, in fairness. And like, I'll hold my hands up and say, listen, I never saw this coming. I thought the guy was done. I didn't see any way he was ever going to work in a Conte system or even any Spurs system. I was like, this guy can't even, run in a straight line. This guy can't do anything right. But no, he's been absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's kind of like a Sissoko type U-turn. Maybe it's too early to be saying things like that, but he has just been class. It seems like everything he does, it just shows what confidence does for a player. But everything he does at the moment is the right move. He's making the right decisions. He's far more aggressive in his tackling, which I've noticed in his last maybe 2 games. He's really, really driven up. And I just wonder, is maybe having Romero behind him or something like that, just really kind of G'ing him up and giving him that extra bite. But he has just been unbelievable. Even his crossing and everything like that, his decision-making, I can't get over him. He could have been man of the match again yesterday, to be honest, only for Skip. He was that good. But yeah, I'm baffled at how good he's been. Maybe that £1 million he spent on himself has been worth it. I'll pump an extra million if I have it, to make him even better if that's what it takes. But no, he has been sick. He has been sick, and long may it continue. I kind of feel for Porro, because I don't think he's going to get a kick with Emerson in the form like this. But no, I'm delighted for him, in fairness. He seems like a really good guy as well. And he seems really popular in the dressing room, which normally tells a lot about a player. So yeah, no, it's been brilliant.
Definitely. And I think, George, that's because Although I know Dara's mentioned his crossing has got a bit better, but I think in recent weeks he's deciding to come inside a bit more, lay it off, let Kuleveski put a cross in rather than him being the sole man to bring it in. Because I think defenders know exactly where it's going with Emerson Royale's crosses.
Yeah, and I think he's also making the runs into the box a bit more, which is sort of exactly what Conte wants from his wing backs. I think I remember Inter, Hakimi would do that all the time as well. He would drive into the box if one of the midfielders had the ball, and that's how Emerson managed to get his goal against City. That's how he's managed to be in the situation that allowed us to get the goal. He probably could have done better with the shot in the first place, but look, he's still learning, he's growing, and yeah, I'm exactly the same. I've slated him plenty of times before. I didn't think he would ever be good as a wing back for us, but it's really happy to see that he's turning around. To be honest with you, 40 million well spent on Porro, making Royale a better player.
It's a madness, isn't it, when you put it like that? I think it is the
Yeah.
competition for place as well. But Mitch, I don't know. I feel like when you have the wing backs on form, we look like a totally different Tottenham, and it shows that Conte has this belief that it is the way he wants to play because it does work. We don't necessarily need that creative midfielder, but I think with those two guys, with Davies and then Emerson bringing up their game, it really shows what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't seen the best of a Conte formation at Spurs yet. I stand by that. I think there's still a lot of work to be done, but we all know that the wing backs are so important to the way that he wants to play. And we've said all season and throughout a lot of last season that when they're not up to scratch, then we're not going to play as well because it severely limits our options. We need them to be an integral part of our sort of attacking formation and just have the width and the quality in the final third to support the likes of Kane, Kulusevski, Son, Richarlison when they're there. And we are finally starting to see that. We saw it with obviously Emerson and Davies against West Ham. And again, Davies maybe not so much yesterday, but Emerson, he looks, it's so weird. He just looks so full of confidence. When he's on the ball, you feel like he can do no wrong. Like you'd always get the feeling that he's going to misplace a pass or he's going to lose it or he's going to run into someone. But I haven't felt like that with him in a couple of weeks, which is brilliant. And I am 100% sure it's down to obviously the competition from Pedro Porro, but it's nice because all of a sudden we've got an Emerson who actually looks like he knows how to play football. We've got Pedro Porro coming in, who I still have no doubts is going to be a really, really important, really good player for us in the years to come. Ben Davies has shown he can put in a shift at left wing back, which is absolutely fine with me. Perisic has played a lot of football this season. I think it started to show in the last few games that he started. I think he's needed this few game break, and he will be back, and he'll be back to his best. And then we've got Destiny Udogie coming in next season, who I am so excited to see in a Spurs shirt. So this forms one of the main arguments as to why I want Antonio Conte to stay. Because although I love people like Pochettino, if you bring him back to a club and Conte leaves, we're not going to continue to play that formation, and we're not going to see the best versions of Udogie and Porro and Emerson and Perisic, because we're not going to play with that 3 at the back or 5 at the back with the wing back. So, I'm just trying to look at it in a bit more from a long-term view. And I just hope that our form continues to the end of the season. We go on to win the FA Cup as well, of course. And
Yes.
we continue this project in the summer would be lovely.
I think it would. Like you said, the fact that now that we're seeing that this formation is working, Dara, it shows that Conte, I know lots of people get up about Conte, say it's boring football, this, that, and the other. But the fact that now that our wing backs are performing to the way they should be, it shows that it does work.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the reason why people were starting to get frustrated with Conte was his, I suppose, lack of flexibility. It just kind of got difficult for a while to watch, just because it was clear that the players either weren't getting it or weren't capable of doing it. But it goes to show that if you have belief in a system as much as Conte does, and you keep working at it, the players, they do eventually respond to it. I mean, you saw like his immediate impact last season, Conte, with the players just got it quickly, and he got us top 4. And I think, football fans can be fickle, myself included, and we can change our opinions from one week to the next. But you just see with players like Royale and Davies as well, like people will complain about Davies and say he's just a bit of a yes man, and how is he still at the club, and the likes of Dyer and stuff like that. But I mean, these guys have it in them to have big performances. It's just about pushing on. And I think Mitch is absolutely spot on there. Pochettino is loved by everybody, and listen, he'd probably be the most likely candidate to replace Conte should he leave. But we have now built a team to facilitate a Conte environment. It would just be a bit of a shambles to see it all crumble and then have an entire squad of players who aren't fit for purpose for Pochettino. It just doesn't seem like a good situation to be in, to be honest. So, no, I definitely agree with Mitch there on that one, because I was actually having conversations like that with friends 2 weeks ago who said, that they think Conte is going to leave and stuff like that. But yeah, I really hope he doesn't. And yeah, if we can push on the way we've been playing last couple of weeks in particular, I think we're in with a shoe-in for that FA Cup and a shoe-in for top 4 in particular. I think top 4 was always going to be our goal, and any trophy after that was probably, a bonus, and would be fantastic, obviously. But yeah, top 4 has always got to be the goal for us, to be honest. And yeah, we seem like we have a good chance at the cup too, because when you look at the teams that are left in it, it's not quite as competitive as maybe previous seasons as well. So yeah, you'd have to fancy yourself, even with the players that we have to come in, the likes of Danjuma and Porro and Sarr and Perisic and Son, of course, none of them started the last game. So I mean, you'd be confident enough.
Definitely, 100%. I mean, George, I think although we're talking about his Conte system, this, that, and the other, you have to give it to Stellini in the sense that he's managed to steer the ship throughout this rocky time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, I imagine they're having conversations back and forth, and I think Conte is obviously still heavily involved when it comes to choosing the team and some of the preparation. But at the end of the day, what is it? Four games, 4 wins, 7-1 on aggregate at the moment. He's done an unbelievable job. So, if Conte does leave, maybe we have to convince Stellini to stay as our manager if he keeps this up. But yeah, I think that's just. Like the guys have been saying, it's a belief in the system, and it's the same formation. Obviously, there might be slight tweaks to the way specific players play, but hopefully it just continues when Conte does come back, once he's feeling 100%. And just to echo what they've said, I agree. I agree with everything. I think there's no point buying these players, buying Porro, committing 40 million to sign a right wing back if you're then just not going to use him unless you convert him to a right winger or something. But I mean, again, like, what's the point? You've already got Kulusevski in that position. It just seems like a waste of money to me, and you probably would have to buy them all over again. So I would personally like him to stay long term. I think there's just maybe people just reading too much into things. Like, Conte has got no reason right now to need to commit to a longer term deal. We supposedly still have an year option anyway, but don't forget, we are paying him a lot of money. I think it's just a matter of, we're seeing how the season goes. If we do get top 4, if we do win the FA Cup, then we're clearly on a massive upwards trajectory. So then he'll probably sign a new contract. Then Kane will probably maybe sign a new contract as well and stay. I think a lot of these ingredients need to come together at the right time. And I think there's no real rush from Conte's side or Kane's side in this situation. I think they're just going to see out the season and see where we sort of are. If it's going downhill, then we'll have to move on to the next one. But yeah, I'd be happy if Conte stayed.
No, that's definitely a right way to put it. I think, like you say, it's the combination of things that at the moment aren't quite aligning, and that's why everybody thinks everything's up in the air. So hopefully that does sort it out. But obviously we managed to beat Chelsea, get 3 points, which is lovely jubbly. But Mitch, we have to turn our heads because the next game is obviously against Sheffield away in the FA Cup. How are you feeling for that one?
Yeah, I feel good. I think we'll go strong. I think it's inevitable that we'll see a couple of changes. I think the likelihood is that we'll see Son back in the starting 11. We'll see Perisic back in the starting 11. I think Porro will get a start as well, because I really hope we're going to be on the front foot and controlling the game. I know it's at their place, but we should be. And we might even see someone like Danjuma maybe coming on the right, give Kulusevski a break, leave him on the bench in case we need him, which, if any of those changes do happen for Wednesday, then I haven't got an issue with that, because I think they're all capable replacements to come in and be good enough to beat Sheffield United. I think, annoyingly, it looks like they're sort of playing their way back into form in the Championship and solidifying that second place. So they'll come into it with confidence that they can beat us. But, you'd like to think that if Wrexham can take them to 2 games in the FA Cup, then we can do a job on them. And I think the main motivation for the players is going to be, and like you've already mentioned, that there's such a huge opportunity to win the FA Cup this season. I think the 2 biggest threats left in the competition are both the Manchester clubs, who I'm confident that we could beat both of them. Based on this season, I'd actually be more nervous playing Man United than I would be Man City at the moment. But I think the main motivation has got to be is if you win on Wednesday, you're one game away from Wembley in the semi-finals of the FA Cup, aren't you? So that, and when you get to the semi-final of the FA Cup, all 4 teams left in that competition will think that they can win it. So it's just such a huge opportunity. And I actually said it to my mate the other day before the Chelsea game. I said to him, I actually think I would rather lose to Chelsea on Sunday if it meant we won on Wednesday, just because of how big that opportunity is. Obviously, I want us to win every single game. Like I'm not saying I wanted us to lose, but that opportunity is there. I think there's nearly 6,000 fans going up to the stadium. We've got an extended allocation, so it's going to be a great atmosphere. And you know, you're getting yourselves into that quarterfinal of the FA Cup, and all of a sudden you're dreaming that you can go all the way and lift the trophy. So big game indeed.
100%. And I think that's the thing, Daryl. We all want a trophy as Spurs fans. And like Mitch has said, like we've all kind of said, it's not an easy route to the final, but it's probably the easiest one it's been for a little while.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the prospect of an FA Cup quarterfinal, semi-final, and final, it's just surely every player will be completely driven to get there. You know what I mean? And when you see the teams that are left in it, and Mitch already said it there, but yeah, Man United and Man City are the 2 best teams left in it, bar us. And you'd have to fancy yourself. I mean, we've already got a result against City this season. We know what United are capable of, but they're also capable of, you know, absolute capitulation on their day. So you'd like to think we'd have a chance against them as well. And I think we've built a squad strong enough to actually cope with playing in various cups as well. I think the next 3 weeks are going to be extremely telling as to what direction our season is going to go in, with the Sheffield game, of course, and then Wolves away, and then Milan at home. I mean, that's a huge couple of weeks in store, and it's really going to show the fans as well what kind of mentality these players have. Like, it's kind of crunch time now for the season. Are we going to get to the next phase Champions League? Are we going to next phase FA Cup? Or are we going to crash and burn, and we're all going to be depressed come the end of the season and be hoping and praying that we just edge top 4 as per usual? But it'd be nice to see us go on a couple of cup runs, because I think that keeps the excitement alive, and it's not just, gunning for the top 4. I think that's always going to be our goal, but to throw a cup run in there is massive. So no, I'm really, really hoping. I think I nearly agree with Mitch there. I'd probably rather beat Sheffield than beat Chelsea, but again, I think beating Chelsea will even, drive us on that bit more and give us that extra bit of confidence to beat Sheffield. So it's nice that the 2 can go hand in hand and we can just beat them both.
That would be lovely. No, but it is good. I think you're right in the sense that this is a massive game. And George, I know all night we've spoken about staying consistent, but I think Mitch is right, and Darragh, the fact that some sort of change needs to happen, because like Darragh says, there's so many fixtures coming up.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what I like as well is some of the other players' mentalities. If you look at Sarr, I think he's got some quotes saying that he's already won like the African Cup of Nations, but he wants to be like African Ballon d'Or winner. He wants to win the Champions League. He wants to win this, that, and the other. And bear in mind, this is such a young player, like one of the youngest in our squads. And every time he has played, he's been the standout player for me as well. So if someone like him were to play on Wednesday, I've got full confidence in him, because I think he's a very good, tidy player. And Dan Juma scored in his debut in the FA Cup. Like you said, Sonny hopefully maybe can come in. I'm not as worried anymore. And I've tweeted this earlier today, but when Ben Scott had his injury, I was a little bit worried because of how important he was for the whole season for us. But it's really nice to see the fact that the likes of Skipper stepped up, Sarr stepped up. We've got a decent squad now when everyone's on their A game. So we can sort of afford to make a few changes, but I don't think we should completely change the team at all, because like you guys have been saying, an FA Cup is so important to us this season. If we can get top 4 in FA Cup, it's a great season for us. So maybe keep the core foundations the same at the back, and obviously Kane playing. But yeah, you can chop a few around.
Definitely. And I think that's the thing. I think we all know that we need to go strong, because it's such an opportunity to get a cup this season. But like you said, you don't want to not chop and change a few things just because of how many fixtures we've got coming up. And talking about fixtures coming fast, obviously, Mitch, we've got Wolves at the weekend as well. So we've seen that it's away again. So that's 2 fixtures in a row that will be away. So how are you kind of feeling for that in the Premier League?
Yeah, it'll be a tough game. I think Wolves are very much on the on the rise under Lopetegui, so it's not going to be easy. Absolutely not. I think we quite like a tough game at Molineux. So, of course, coming off the back of midweek fixture as well, it's all about squad management. But I think most of us would just be happy if we went there and picked up a nice 1-0 win, and just got the 3 points, keep ourselves cemented in that fourth position. As well. So yeah, it'll be tough, and I think the issue will probably be at that point is players will start to have one eye on the AC Milan game the week after. So it's I know you guys have mentioned it already, but it's a really important sort of week for us, or week and a half for us at this point. But I'm fully confident that we can go into each of the next 3 games and win. I think our away form's nowhere near as bad as it has been in the last few years. So fingers crossed we can go to Wolves and pick up a fast start, get an early goal, and do what we do best, which is see it out. It's what we've done in the last 3 games. So fingers crossed we can just repeat that.
100%. I mean, Wolves obviously no pushover because they have. I know Liverpool are really bad this season, but they have beaten Liverpool 3-0. Darragh, does that kind of speak to you in terms of, okay, hang on, well, we need to definitely be on our A game for this as well?
Oh yeah, big time. I don't think Wolves are any pushovers by any means. I think they have the bones of a good squad actually, and they were massively underperforming before Lopetegui came in. So I think he's kind of starting to get his ideologies across. But I do still think that they're quite poor going forward, to be honest with you. I don't think they've really sorted out their forward line since the likes of Jota and Jimenez got his injury, of course, and Jota left. So I think if we can keep a clean sheet, I think we win the game. I know that's like a very obvious statement, but I think I back us to score in every single game. So I think it was this Dyer or Skip, or was it even Forster maybe? It was one of the interviews at the weekend where they talked about how much the squad has talked about the potency of the strikers and their ability to score. It's just about not conceding, and then we'd be sorted. But I'd fancy us against Wolves actually. I think it's one of those kind of tricky fixtures. It kind of reminds me of Fulham away, where it's kind of a, it's a dodgy one where you know it's going to be a tricky game. They're going well, and you just kind of have to grind out those kind of results if you want to be right up there with the best. So I'm confident going into every game, to be honest, these days. So yeah, let's hope we keep kicking on.
100%. Dan's in here with a stat, man. I love it, Dan. Thank you for that. But George, is it you kind of feeling the same with Mitch and Darragh, that it's going to be a tough one, but it's one that we're probably going to win?
100%. I think the main thing for me at Wolves, which is always quite difficult, is just even something as simple as the way they set out the away fans. The fact that it's all along the whole sort of length of the stadium. Everyone's quiet. There's only a few rows. It's really difficult to create an atmosphere as an away fan going to Wolves. And I would say they've got quite a decent home atmosphere themselves as well. So, they're always going to be behind their team. It's difficult for us to sort of show that we're there because one end's singing one thing, the other end's singing the other. But we've had some good games there in the past. And like the guys have said, I think we've definitely got the front line to get goals against them, especially when they've had a pretty ropey season overall. Just reiterating this defense, and we've been in solid form the last couple of weeks. So no, I think keep it going. Hopefully we would have got a result by Wednesday as well. So confidence is flying, and then we keep it going because we're entering a pretty good run for Premier League games as well, and we need as many points as we can get leading up to the end of April, because I think we have Newcastle on a Sunday, United on a Thursday, and then Liverpool on the Sunday. So that's going to be a tough week.
It's going to be a rough week. Well, I hope it's not, but just hearing those names, I'm a bit like, okay. But no, I think all of you are right in terms of it. It's going to be, I don't think it's going to be a difficult game. It's just going to be one of those where you're thinking, oh, this might go the other way. But hopefully it doesn't, because like you say, we started the week off well. Hopefully we beat Sheffield on Wednesday and then go beat them at the weekend. But no, it's been a good thing tonight to discuss, obviously, that great win against Chelsea that I think is going to live with me for a little while longer, and obviously to preview the next upcoming games. Thank you to everybody else that's in the chat as well. Thank you to John as well for your super chat, everybody commenting. I really do enjoy it when you all get involved. And without further ado, we'll do our round the table where everybody can find each other. So Mitch, thank you again for joining me tonight. Where can everybody find you?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, just over on Twitter mainly for me, just at Mitch_Fretton. If anybody fancies dropping a follow, then happy days.
Cheers. Thank you, Mitch. Thank you for coming on. And Darragh, aka Spurs Views, where can everybody find you doing your thing?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter as well, guys, just at SpursView_. If you want to hear me ranting and raving on about all things Spurs, go give us a follow. And if you're not already, absolutely get following the other guys here as well, and definitely get subscribing to Hollie. She does stellar stuff.
Thank you. I love that word, Stella. I think I'm going to use that from now on. But no, thank you, Dara. And also, George, where can everybody find you doing your thing as well?
Yeah, literally just search my name right there, pretty much on any platform, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, posting a lot about going to the games and stuff. So yeah, see them. Thanks for having me on. It's been great talking about a win.
It is good to talk about a win for once rather than being all depressed. So no, it was very nice. But no, thank you guys for joining me. Also to everybody, thank you for all your comments. Hopefully we'll be in high spirits come next Monday to dissect the Wolves game and obviously go over a little bit about the FA Cup. But until next time, like we always say, come on you Spurs.